Before we dive into today's topic, I want to tell you about something that's changed how I approach pigeon health and performance. I run another channel called Pigeon Healthy where I share natural herbal treatment methods that most fanciers have never heard of. We're talking about plants and natural remedies that have powerful healing and performance-enhancing effects on pigeons. Things like specific herb combinations that boost immunity, natural treatments for respiratory diseases, plants that improve digestion and recovery after races, and natural alternatives to chemical medications. We cover pigeon diseases you might be struggling with right now: canker, respiratory infections, coccidiosis, worms, and show you exactly how to treat them using natural methods that actually work. No guessing. No expensive medications with side effects. Just proven herbal protocols used by top European lofts. If you're serious about keeping your birds healthy naturally and improving their performance without chemicals, go subscribe to Pigeon Healthy right now. The knowledge there could save you birds, save you money, and give you an edge your competition doesn't have. Now let's get into today's topic. Last summer I spent a week visiting Belgian lofts, learning from old masters who've been racing for 40-50 years. One evening I was sitting with Franz, an 82-year-old fancier who's won national races in 5 different decades. We were talking about bird selection. How to identify which young birds have champion potential before they've raced. Franz said something that confused me. He said, "True champions navigate in the dark. Birds that need daylight to find home are mediocre even if they race well in perfect conditions." I asked what he meant. He explained that races are often won or lost in difficult visibility conditions. Fog, heavy overcast, early morning darkness, late evening arrivals. Birds that can only navigate visually, using landmarks they can see, fail in these conditions. Birds that can navigate using magnetic sense and spatial memory, independent of vision, excel in difficult conditions. Franz told me he used to test young birds by releasing them at dusk, 30 minutes before sunset when light is fading but still enough to prevent accidents. The birds that returned quickly and confidently in low light were marked as champion potential. Birds that circled confused or landed on buildings to wait for better light were culled or sold. He claimed this single test predicted racing success better than pedigree or training performance in perfect conditions. I was skeptical. It sounded like old folklore. But Franz insisted. He said, "Try it yourself. Release trained birds in low light. You'll see immediately which ones are special." So I decided to test it. Not at dusk like Franz recommended. I wanted extreme conditions to make results unmistakable. I decided to release birds at midnight. Complete darkness. This experiment and its results changed how I evaluate birds. Today I'm showing you exactly what happened, what it revealed about pigeon navigation, and how you can use safe low-visibility training to identify your best birds and develop champion-level navigational ability. Let me describe the experimental setup. I selected 20 birds from my young bird team. All had completed identical training. Progressive distances from 5 kilometers to 20 kilometers. All showed good return rates. 95% or better. All trapped well. All seemed like quality birds based on normal training. I wanted to see if low visibility conditions would reveal differences that normal training didn't show. The test location was 5 kilometers south of my loft. Very familiar direction. All 20 birds had trained from this location multiple times in daylight. They knew the route cold. The test date was July 23rd. New moon phase. Naturally dark night. I verified weather forecast. Heavy overcast. No breaks in clouds. No moonlight. No starlight. Maximum natural darkness. Wind calm. No precipitation. Temperature moderate. Perfect conditions for the test except for the darkness, which was intentional. The test time was midnight exactly. I arrived at release point at 11:45 p.m. with all 20 birds in transport baskets. I sat in darkness waiting for midnight. No lights except my phone to check time. At midnight I opened the baskets. Birds emerged confused. They couldn't see landmarks. Complete darkness. I heard wing beats. Birds taking flight. Then silence as they dispersed. I sat quietly for 5 minutes listening. I could hear some birds flying overhead, circling. Others seemed to depart immediately. I couldn't see anything. Just sounds and darkness. Then I drove home. I arrived at my loft at 12:25 a.m. 25 minutes after release. I expected 0 birds would be home yet. 5 kilometers in darkness would take much longer than daylight flight. I was wrong. I turned on the loft light. 4 birds were already inside the loft, perched calmly like they'd been home for a while. 4 birds had navigated 5 kilometers in complete darkness and trapped in the time it took me to drive home. I was stunned. These birds flew home faster than I could drive. The route isn't direct by road. But still. They navigated pitch darkness, found the loft, landed safely, entered the trap. Incredible. Over the next 2 hours, more birds returned. I checked the loft every 30 minutes. 12:30 a.m., 8 birds home total. 1 a.m., 12 birds home. 1:30 a.m., 14 birds. 2 a.m., 15 birds. By 3 a.m., 17 birds had returned. 3 birds were still missing. I left the loft light on all night in case the missing birds returned in darkness. Morning 6 am I checked again. 1 more bird had returned overnight. 18 total. 2 birds still missing. Throughout the day Saturday I monitored. Around 9 am I heard from a neighbor. 2 birds were on his roof. They'd apparently landed there during the night and waited until daylight to try navigating home. He shooed them off. Both returned to my loft mid-morning. So ultimately 20 of 20 birds returned alive. But the timing differences were massive and revealing. Let me break down the results by groups based on return timing. Group 1 the champions. 5 birds that returned before I got home. Return time 18 to 25 minutes for 5 kilometers in total darkness. These birds navigated as fast in darkness as they do in daylight. Maybe faster because they flew direct routes without visual distractions. These 5 birds demonstrated elite navigation ability. They obviously weren't using visual landmarks because there were none visible. They navigated using magnetic sense, spatial memory, or some other non-visual system. These are champion-level birds. Group 2 the good birds. 10 birds that returned between 30 minutes and 90 minutes. Still impressive. 5 kilometers in darkness with extended return times but successful. These birds probably initially tried visual navigation, found it impossible, struggled briefly, then switched to alternative navigation methods. Once they engaged magnetic or memory-based navigation they found home. These birds have champion potential but they're not as naturally gifted as Group 1. They needed time to adjust to conditions Group 1 handled immediately. Group 3 the poor birds. 5 birds that either landed on neighbor's roof and waited for daylight, or took more than 2 hours to return. 2 birds waited on roof from approximately 1 a.m. until 9 a.m. 8 hours sitting on roof waiting for enough light to feel confident navigating. 3 other birds returned between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Very long times for 5 kilometers. These birds are heavily visual dependent. Without good visibility they panic or wait. In race conditions with fog or darkness, these birds would fail. They might race adequately in perfect conditions but they'll never win difficult races. Now let me explain what this experiment reveals about pigeon navigation systems. Science has identified multiple navigation mechanisms pigeons use. Visual navigation using landmarks. Magnetic navigation using Earth's magnetic field. Solar navigation using sun position. Olfactory navigation using smell. Infrasound navigation using very low-frequency sound. No single mechanism alone is sufficient. Birds use multiple systems integrated together. But different birds emphasize different systems. Some birds are visual primary navigators. They rely heavily on recognizing landmarks. They're excellent in good visibility. They struggle in poor visibility. Other birds are magnetic primary navigators. They sense magnetic field direction. They navigate successfully even without visual cues. These birds excel in difficult conditions. The midnight test separates visual primary from magnetic primary birds. In complete darkness, visual navigation is impossible. Birds must use non-visual systems. Visual primary birds panic or wait for light because their preferred system doesn't work. Magnetic primary birds navigate confidently because darkness doesn't affect magnetic sense. This is why Franz said champions navigate in the dark. He wasn't being mystical. He was identifying birds with strong non-visual navigation, which is what wins difficult races. Let me give you real racing examples proving this matters. 2 years ago, major 300-kilometer race in my region. Liberation at 6 a.m. Heavy fog at Liberation Point. Visibility 200 meters. Birds released into fog. Most fanciers expected disastrous loss rates. Results were fascinating. Overall return rate was 62%. 38% of birds were lost. But the losses weren't random. Lofts that normally place in top 10 all had return rates above 90%. Lofts that normally place middle of pack had return rates around 40 to 50%. The fog separated the truly elite birds from the merely adequate birds. I talked to the winner afterward. He said fog races are his favorite races because they eliminate competition. His birds navigate magnetically. They don't need visibility. When fog comes, mediocre birds from other lofts get lost. His birds come home like it's clear sky. He trains specifically for difficult conditions. He does dusk and dawn training. He trains in overcast and light fog. His birds learn to trust non-visual navigation. They win fog races consistently. Meanwhile, fanciers who train only in perfect conditions lose half their teams in fog races and wonder why. This is the practical application of understanding navigation systems. You can't control race conditions. You can't prevent fog or overcast or bad weather. But you can select and train birds that navigate successfully regardless of conditions. Birds with strong magnetic sense. Birds with robust spatial memory. Birds that don't panic when visibility is poor. The midnight test or safer dusk test identifies these birds. Then you breed from them. Your future generations inherit strong non-visual navigation. Your loft becomes competitive in all conditions, not just perfect conditions. Now let me teach you the safe practical version of this test because full darkness testing is dangerous. I don't recommend midnight releases. My test was extreme to make the point. The danger is birds flying into obstacles they can't see. Trees, buildings, power lines. In complete darkness, collision risk is high. I was lucky all 20 birds survived. Some might have collided with branches or wires and been injured or killed. The risk isn't worth it for routine testing. Instead, use dusk or dawn testing, which provides low visibility safely. Dusk testing protocol. Select familiar training direction. 3 to 5 kilometers distance. Birds have successfully trained multiple times in daylight. Timing is critical. Release 30 to 45 minutes before sunset. Not earlier. At 30 minutes before sunset, light is fading significantly. Visibility is reduced but not eliminated. Landmarks are harder to see but still partially visible. This creates challenge without danger. Birds can see obstacles well enough to avoid collisions, but they can't navigate purely visually. They must engage non-visual systems. Release birds and drive home. Note return times. Champion-level birds return quickly, similar to daytime return times from same distance. Good birds return slightly slower than daylight but still within reasonable time. Poor birds circle extensively, show hesitation, take dramatically longer than daylight, or don't return until full darkness when they give up and land somewhere to wait for morning. Dawn testing protocol is similar. Release 30 to 45 minutes before sunrise. Pre-dawn darkness creates similar conditions to dusk. Light is increasing but still low initially. Birds must navigate in reduced visibility. Again, champion birds handle it confidently. Poor birds struggle. The advantage of dawn testing versus dusk testing is birds have all day to return if they struggle. With dusk testing, struggling birds face full darkness before they make it home. This increases risk. Dawn testing is safer because light improves as birds navigate. Overcast and fog testing. Natural bad weather days provide safe testing opportunities. Heavy overcast with thick cloud cover reduces visibility significantly. Light fog with visibility 500 meters plus is safe for testing. Never train in heavy fog with visibility under 200 meters. Too dangerous. But moderate overcast or light fog creates excellent testing conditions. Release from familiar locations at familiar distances. 3 to 5 kilometers. Observe return times and behavior. Birds that navigate confidently in poor weather are proven adaptable champions. Important safety rules for all low visibility training. 1. Only use very familiar locations where birds have trained many times in daylight. Never introduce new directions in low visibility. 2. Keep distances short. Maximum 5 kilometers for low visibility testing. Birds need to be close enough to home that even if they struggle, they can make it back. 3. Never combine multiple challenges. Don't do long distance plus low visibility plus unfamiliar direction. One challenge at a time. 4. Always have tracking or observation plan. If using dusk testing, have way to confirm birds returned by morning. If birds don't return by next morning, they're lost and need searching. 5. Never force visibility testing. If weather suddenly worsens during planned training, postpone. Don't release into conditions worse than you intended. 6. Limit frequency. Low visibility training is stressful. Do it maximum once every 2 to 3 weeks. Most training should be in good conditions. Occasional visibility challenge identifies adaptable birds without overstressing them. 7. Consider individual bird temperament. Very nervous or young birds might not handle visibility challenges well initially. Save visibility testing for birds that are confident in normal training. Now let me teach you what to do with the test results. How to use information about which birds navigate well in low visibility. First application is breeding selection. Birds that excel in dusk or dawn testing should be your primary breeding birds regardless of their daylight training performance. Strong non-visual navigation is genetic. It's heritable. Breeding from birds with this trait produces offspring with stronger navigation across conditions. Even if a bird never wins in perfect conditions, if it consistently navigates well in poor visibility, it's valuable breeding stock. Its offspring will have better all-condition navigation than offspring from birds that only navigate in perfect conditions. Second application is race team selection. For races with high probability of poor conditions, early season races with morning fog potential, late season races with weather uncertainty, select team members based on visibility testing performance. Don't send your entire team. Send the birds you know can handle difficulties. Your dusk test champions. Leave the visual-dependent birds home for that race. For races with guaranteed good conditions, midsummer races and stable weather, you can race broader team including good daylight navigators. Match bird selection to expected conditions. Third application is training refinement. Birds that struggle in visibility testing need more varied condition training. Don't only train them in perfect conditions. Gradually expose them to challenging conditions. Start with heavy overcast. Progress to light fog if available. Do occasional dusk or dawn tosses. Some birds will develop better non-visual navigation through experience. Others won't improve significantly. Those that don't improve are confirmed visual dependent. Accept that and either breed them out or only race them in perfect conditions. Fourth application is champion identification. You have 20 young birds, all trained identically. You need to select your top 5 to invest maximum resources into. Do visibility testing. The 5 that excel become your focus. You know these birds have elite navigation genetics. Pour your breeding and racing investment into these proven birds. The others are backup or culling candidates. This selection based on hard data beats selection based on appearance or pedigree speculation. Let me address the skepticism some fanciers will have. This sounds like old superstition. Navigation in darkness isn't real selection criteria. Races happen in daylight. Why does darkness performance matter? The answer is darkness performance correlates with all-condition adaptability. Birds that navigate in darkness are using robust non-visual systems. These same systems help in daylight races when conditions are challenging. The case: bright sun causing visual confusion. Landscape changes from season to season. Unfamiliar race liberation points. Any condition where pure visual navigation is insufficient. The correlation between darkness navigation and race success isn't mystical. It's measuring underlying navigation system strength. It's like testing a car's engine. You don't care about engine performance for its own sake. You care because engine strength predicts how the car handles difficult driving conditions. Strong engine handles hills, acceleration, bad roads. Weak engine struggles. Similarly, strong non-visual navigation handles fog, unfamiliar terrain, varying conditions. Weak non-visual navigation handles only perfect familiar conditions. Belgian masters have used visibility testing for generations not because of superstition but because it works. The birds they select using these methods win races consistently, including difficult races other fanciers lose. If the method didn't predict performance, they'd have abandoned it. The fact that championship lofts still use visibility testing after decades proves it's valid. American fanciers can dismiss it as European nonsense, or they can test it themselves and see the results. I did. The test worked. My dusk test champions became my race winners. The test predicted performance accurately. Let me end with specific recommendations. If you've never done visibility testing, start with one dusk toss this season. Select 10 birds that have trained well in normal conditions. Release them from 5 kilometers at 30 minutes before sunset. Document return times. Note which birds return quickly and which struggle. Repeat the test once more to confirm results. 2 dusk tosses show consistent patterns. Then evaluate your findings. Did certain birds clearly outperform others? Use that information for breeding and team selection decisions. If you want more advanced approach, implement systematic visibility training. Once every 3 weeks, do one challenging condition toss. Alternate between dusk, dawn, and overcast conditions. Over full season, you'll accumulate substantial data on which birds handle challenges best. This data informs all your management decisions. Breeding, racing, culling, everything. You're making decisions based on measured performance under demanding conditions. This beats guessing based on appearance or hoping pedigree determines ability. If you're skeptical and think this is unnecessary, I challenge you to test it once. 1 dusk toss. See what happens. If your birds all return equally well, then visibility testing doesn't reveal anything meaningful for your birds. But if some excel and others struggle dramatically like my midnight test showed, you've discovered valuable information you wouldn't have known otherwise. The test costs nothing except 1 evening's time. The information might identify your future champion or expose your weak birds before you waste resources on them. If this video introduced you to visibility testing and navigation system selection, hit the like button. Subscribe for training methods that separate champions from mediocre birds before racing proves it expensively. Comment midnight if you're going to test your birds in challenging visibility conditions. And visit Pigeon Healthy for stress and navigation support protocols because challenging training stresses birds and natural adaptogens help them cope with stress while building resilience. Test your birds, identify the champions, breed from the best, cull the rest. That's how dynasties are built. See you in next video.